Thank you so much for joining us, Cory. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you about this sort of stuff. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself and the nature of your work and how you're helping repair shops in general?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me on here. I'm a big fan of all the RepairDesk content that's been coming out these last few months. I think you're doing a really good job. So excited to be on this podcast. So a little bit about me. My name is Cory. I'm one of the founders here at RepairLift. Been in the industry for about 6 years now, 5-6 years. Initially, we were in a parts business, selling parts. And we just recognized a big opportunity to help shops on the marketing front. It seemed to be a big blind spot for people. So we created RepairLift, and we've been working with shops to drive more traffic to their stores ever since.
Right. So, what gave you the idea to pivot away from working in parts to working in marketing and helping repair shops in general?
Good question. So one of the things we always used to say, because when we were selling parts, I was working for it was a Chinese company, right, that had set up customer service headquarters here in North America, right? Obviously, a lot of shops dealing with China, it's a nightmare because of the time difference, right? It's almost a 12-hour time difference. So it was a really good little value proposition for us to be able to offer customer service here. And what we would find is that you could usually save about 20 points on your inventory when you buy from China. And we would tell people to take that 20 points and redirect that into your growth strategy, into your marketing budget. I just, I've been working with hundreds, if not thousands of shops at that time. And it seemed to be a really big blind spot for people. They weren't hitting it. And we had some really good strategies. And I had a really great partner who had, I think he had 9 locations at the time, and we were selling parts to him. So we just saw an opportunity, and we ran with it.
So, like you mentioned, that there was a blind spot that a lot of repair shops probably weren't looking at, and that's what motivated you to move from working in parts to working in marketing and helping people sort of manage that blind spot. So could we please talk about the sort of challenges that you encountered, that repair shops encountered with marketing themselves, and why that blind spot actually exists?
Yeah, sure. So, I don't think, when I say blind spot, I don't think it's like a blind spot to the point where, well, some people it might be, but for most shops, it's not, advertising isn't a blind spot in the sense that they don't know they need to be doing it. It's more of, I think the biggest challenge that these guys have is that in this type of business, you're wearing a lot of hats, right? If you're a small guy, chances are you're fixing stuff, you're dealing with customers, and to check off all the boxes that are required to successfully market your company these days is a big job in its own, right? So they don't have the time. But even the bigger companies who have different departments, right? There's still so much that those guys have to do, such as keeping up with inventory, right? Like there's shortages all the time, sourcing good inventory at good prices, right? Dealing with staffing and training issues is a big thing for multi-store owners, right? So I think that the biggest challenge a lot of these guys face is that they don't have the time, and that's why we've been able to be successful offering a fully outsourced marketing solution. You know what I mean? Or I should say a marketing department. Right, we're able to offer shops a fully outsourced marketing department that checks off all the boxes that they need for less than the cost of hiring an internal marketing employee.
That sounds pretty prudent, because a lot of these shops, they need to focus on the day-to-day business. And like you said, the shop owners are wearing a lot of hats. Mm-hmm. They need to be able to man the desk, look over the technicians, look at their inventory, and et cetera, et cetera. And marketing is something that sort of does act like a secondary thing that, we'll get to it eventually. But there does come a point where it is necessary, and they don't realize it, that they should be capitalizing on that right now. Yeah. So in that and in that, the outsourcing model is actually really good because these people they're not as aware of how to work with it, how to market themselves, and they need expertise because, like I said, like you've mentioned as well, that they have a lot of hats that they're wearing. They're engaged in a lot of other things. So outsourcing is something that you felt could be really beneficial in those sort of thing, and that's what the business model that you created.
Yeah. So, and I think that I think that when you talk about growth for a repair shop, like from a macro level, RepairLift helps repair shops drive more leads to their business, connects them with more potential customers. At a macro level, that's what we do. And I think that when you talk about growth, there's a number of things. There's improving your systems, right? Huge. There's growing your inventory, right? There's growing your staff, and then there's also that marketing strategy and execution. So there's a number of different things that you got to do. And we really honed in on that marketing strategy and execution. Because you made a good point. Even it's not just about the labor factor and the fact that there's so much that needs to get done to successfully do it, but these platforms are changing all the time. What worked last year and what worked this year is going to be totally different from what's going to work next year. You know what I mean? So you need to have insights into in the changing landscape. And be able to stay ahead of the curve and be able to stay relevant. A good example is like TV and radio, right? In certain places it works really well still to this day, right? But I'm sure 10 years ago, guys were telling you, go on radio, go on TV, you know what I mean? It'll be the best decision you've ever made, which was true at that time, right? But the text changed so rapidly that now for the same amount of money that you might spend on a radio campaign, right, for brand awareness, because that's what it is. It's not a conversion campaign, right? It's for brand awareness and it's for getting your name out there. If you spent that same money on social media platforms, not only could you likely get more impressions, but you can target those people a lot better so that you're not wasting that spend on, someone, like the radio stations goes for, 100 miles. You know what I mean? You're not wasting some of your spend on a guy who's, got 10 repair shops closer to him and is, would have to drive 30 minutes to come see you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's about reach. Your average radio station would be catering to a certain area, but if you take that onto social media, then the reach is actually pretty huge. You could probably tap into people who aren't into radio. You could tap into people who are in the next county, and it could be a really great opportunity for you. And that's what a lot of businesses are pivoting towards. In this age, with everything that we have right now, a lot of the world plugged into social media, and you have businesses who are advertising themselves aggressively on Instagram and TikTok of all platforms. That is, I believe, a very good solution to be able to work with. That's what their focus should be.
Yeah. Well, and so I think that it really, and because at the end of the day, every marketing strategy, even in this business, is going to differ depending on the client, right? Because not everyone has the exact same business model. Not everyone has the exact same budget, right? So like if you look at the biggest brands in the world, they're top of funnel marketing, they're brand awareness marketing. Like you talk about Uber, McDonald's, right? They're not tracking ROAS, return on ad spend, on each billboard. You know what I mean? They know that they're spending all this money, the brand awareness, more people figuring out who they are is going to ultimately lead to conversion. But they have, hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on this stuff, right? Whereas if you're a repair shop, I think it's really important. And that's one of the reasons why people like working with us is because we're able to advise them on where to spend that money depending on how that budget looks, right? For instance, if you're a repair shop and you got, $2,000 or $3,000 a month to spend, right? In my opinion, I think social media should be the last place you should put your money. And I think you should focus that budget entirely on Google, right? Because there's for you as a repair shop, that's where the people who are looking for your service today are going to be hanging out, right? So you don't really need to spend time educating people that you're there when your whole budget can be eaten up just on people who need you right away. You know what I mean? And then obviously taking that lead flow, improving the sales process is huge too, right? Because you could drive 100 leads to a shop, and if they can't close them, then it's not going to help them. So they got to solve that problem, right? And that goes back to systems and automation, right? Developing a good sales system and then trying to automate a lot of that process, which, as RepairDesk really helps with. You know what I mean? Like even work order automation. You know what I mean? Like that one email to let people know your device is ready, or that SMS to let people know your device is ready, saves the guy at the front so much time. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I understand that completely. It's the automation that helps us, take away time and devote it to something that is more pressing and more important, that requires more priority.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned earlier, is that it would be a much better idea to invest all your marketing resources into Google as opposed to going on social media. And that's sort of knowledge that people in the repair industry lack, and that you provide. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for expertise. Otherwise, they would have had a run at marketing themselves and try to get everything done like they did with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But marketing is a little different, and it requires quite a lot of thought and quite a lot of investment. And as a small repair business, there's only so much you can invest
mm-hmm.
and learn from your mistakes. Which is why we need professionals there. So I want to be able to talk about some of the marketing tactics that are employed today. So like we mentioned, there is social media and there is talking about Google.
Mm-hmm.
There are also some strong marketing channels that people can use that they might not be aware of, such as emails and listing themselves in local directories. So why do you think that in our industry, in repair shops in general, people aren't aware of this sort of stuff, and what can be done to fix it?
Well, I think that constantly studying and constantly, I think you have a lot of people in this industry and every industry that's in different stages of their business, right? I think as you get big, it's easy to get comfortable, right, and to stop learning and spending all that time on information intake and keeping up to date with things. So I think that that might be an issue that some of the bigger guys face, and the smaller guys as well. Just maybe not having the time to learn these new strategies and stuff like that, right? I think that when you talk about directories, NAP, name, address, phone number directory, is extremely important, right? Like if that's not something that you're doing, I could be 500 meters from your shop and I could Google phone repair near me and I'm not going to find you, right? Because Google hasn't solidified that you're in that spot. You know what I mean? Or that you might kind of be in that spot, but you don't really have a reputation, but we know for sure that these two guys are in these spots here. You know what I mean? So that's really important. Email is so important. And I'll tell you why. So, I think that the days of, $4, $5, $6 leads are coming to an end. Okay. And there's a lot of people out there that are pitching, we can drop your cost per lead, all this, that, and the other. I think that by the time next year comes around, I think you're going to see people happily spending $20, $25 on leads. Okay. Even though that the job they're going to get might only give them 40, 50, 60 bucks in profit. Right. So I think that the reason you're going to see people happily spending that is because there's systems like RepairDesk that exist with advanced reporting functionality, right? And people understand more these days the lifetime value of the customer, right? There's a reason the biggest marketing agencies in the world will tell you that the person who can spend the most on cost per acquisition wins, right? And the only way you can spend the most is if you know what that lifetime value is. If you think you're spending 25 bucks to make 25 bucks, that's a shitty deal, right? But if you know that historically each customer is generating $1,000, $2,000 in revenue over a year, 2-year time, right? On top of any referrals that they're generating for you, now it becomes much more appealing to focus on new customer acquisition, and you're not so caught up in that, in that direct, how much money am I going to make off that first sale? Which leads me into the email strategy. It is completely free for you to market to the data that you've already acquired, to those people that you've already acquired their data. And email is a really, really great way to do it. And I think there's a few ways that you should do it. I think that, again, using your point of sale system, setting up email automation is so important. Okay. At my shop, we run referral campaigns, right? Anytime after someone's checked out 3 days later, they'll get a well, we do it SMS, not email, but it's the same type of thing. You know what I mean? They're going to get a text message asking them to refer a friend and get a discount for their friend, right? If they have a broken device. We also do automated lead follow-up, right? So if someone, calls in for an estimate, or if somebody submits a quote form for an estimate, 3 days later, they'll get a message asking if they decided to repair their phone somewhere else. If so, why? And then if not, here's a $10 coupon with a link to book an appointment. You know what I'm saying? It's free to do that. All you have to do is set it up. And the POS systems make it so easy to set it up. In fact, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe RepairDesk comes out of the box with a lot of that stuff already set up for you. Right? So that's my thoughts on email campaign. And then obviously it's important to always be, hitting that audience that you have with not only sales offers, but value as well.
Absolutely. Emails are really important to be able to get in touch with your audience and to be able to let them know, how to make the best of the situation, what it is in it for them. And that's a very popular medium. I believe that maybe a lot of people don't put a lot of stock in it because they see it as sort of a secondary or a tertiary area, a tertiary channel that they need to be targeting. Because right now in the world, they're probably going to be focusing the hardest on social media because that's where everyone is. But you have to understand that if someone's on social media, that means they absolutely have an email address and they use that. So an email address so whoever's on social media is also on email and they can be reached there too. And the data that you have, that is necessary because maybe approaching someone on social media might not be a good idea, but emails are something that people can, you have a lot more flexibility to be able to work with them. You can customize, you can personalize those campaigns that you send out. And they garner very good responses. And the best part about it is that, you can track them. You can respond. You can follow up with them.
Yeah.
You can always go back to it.
And it's free. And you've probably paid for that customer's data at one point or another. So it's very important that you continue. It's like, if you invest in a laser machine, for example, you don't just use it a few times until you get your money out of it. You keep continuing to use it, right? You just paid to get this lead. You just paid to get this customer. Whether they come in or not, you should continue to market them. You know what I mean? If they do come in, you should continue to market to them with how you can get more business from those people, how you get referrals from them, how you can, buy that phone that you just picked a few months later. You know what I mean? How you can, do all sorts of things. And then, just like you said as well, with leads that don't come in, you just paid for that. You know what I mean? And now you get free follow-up, right? So it's almost like you paid $20, not $20. And we'll get to that point I think very soon. I think that 8 months we're going to be getting to that point because it's getting so competitive. You know what I mean? But if you just paid $20 for that one touch point that didn't result in a sale, if you reach out to that person 10 more times for free, $2 a touch point. You know what I'm saying? And you're very, very likely to get that person to come in through building that brand skills. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, you're going to get some people who unsubscribe. Like you can't take it personally. It's a numbers game. If you get 10 subscribers a week, if you add 100 new emails, you're increasing your email list by 90 people a week. So yeah. As we were just talking about, email follow-up, SMS follow-up, really important channels because you've already paid to get that data one way or another. You've already paid to get that person's information one way or another. And it's completely free for you to continue to, touch those people, right? It's a really effective strategy.
Absolutely. It is effective. And I feel that, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people might not give it stock, but it is very, very crucial to a lot of businesses that you see online. Apple uses it. Google uses it. A lot of big companies, they use email to be able to get in touch with their customers and to be able to, talk to them, remind them. And that's what a lot of other advertisers do. They reach you out via email. And that's why, even though you have a spam filter and, your email list gets really big in terms of unread, and I know I've seen people with thousands upon thousands of emails that are unread. That is, however, the best way to get in touch. So moving forward with our discussion.
Just to touch on that, and like even if you're running, because the campaign is the same, whether it's through email or through SMS. Like the messaging can be the same. And I think that, email is great. I think SMS should be focused on even more because the open rate. So you're talking about people with thousands of unread emails. So many guys, especially people in business, they have so many emails, right? And it's really easy to have a low open rate. But if I've never seen somebody with thousands of unread texts. You know what I mean? That open rate is very, very high. I can't cite a specific number. Maybe you can. I know you guys have the SMS credits. You guys do a lot of SMS stuff with RepairDesk. But I believe that the open rate, on average is over 80%. I think it actually might be almost closer to 90%, but I think 80 is a really safe number to go with.
Absolutely, because that is a lot more direct. You might be able to dodge an email, but you won't be able to dodge a text. And that's something that you will put a lot of stock in.
Yes, sir.
So, absolutely, SMS and text messages are very, very important. And a lot of, obviously, as a repair shop, that should be like the first thing that you go for. Because when you give a notification that, your repair is ready, that's going to go through text. And that's going to go to someone and they find out that, all right, my laptop's ready, my phone's ready, I can go pick it up. And that's instantaneous. Wherever they are, they get it and they're aware. And everyone has their phones these days. Even if they're given their phone for repair, they have someone else's phone that they would like to register or etc. So they have a way to get in touch. And it's all about going in there. So, moving forward with some of the things that we have to talk about. Now, we talked about how it was important to use your marketing budget on Google, but Google has famously restricted keywords relating to repair on their search platforms from being advertised. And the reason for that is because back in 2017, I'm sure you're aware, there was a lot of issue with tech scams. And in order to curtail it, Google came up with the idea to limit it on their advertising platform. So could you maybe mention about how this has affected the repair industry at large?
Yeah, officially that's the story, right? But
that's true.
But we don't really know what's going on there. What we do know is that they promised to give us some sort of application process, and it's been almost 3 years, and I'm not holding my breath anymore. Right? I think it's really been challenging for repair shops. I think there's pros and cons to this, though. I think that it's tough because Google, at the end of the day, is where your buyers are if you have a service industry. There's a lot of buying intent. The sales cycle is short, right? And especially, depending on the keyword, but especially in this industry because the ticket price is low. You know what I mean? Like if I was looking for roofing or HVAC, right? Those are both services and it would still be very effective for me to advertise on there. But what would likely happen is someone would click on my ad, right? And we've seen that a number of times. And then they would go research my company, right? So I would have to have a lot of trust factors. I would have to have good SEO, right? But in this industry, we're talking about a couple $100, right? At most. A lot of the times it's like, 100, 150, 80 bucks even for some of these repairs. It's not a huge decision. You know what I mean? So, I think it's unfortunate that guys can't just pay to play like they could before, right? Now, and I've been really open about this forever. Google's not actually restricting keywords. You can still advertise on Google. They're blocking ad copy and landing page copy. So you just have to be aware that you're not using, direct content about repairs or anything like that, but you can still advertise on keywords like iPhone repair near me. Where can I get my device repaired? Phone repair, insert city. All those keywords you can still advertise, right? So I think the benefit to that is that now that there's such a big barrier to entry, right? The market has been less competitive. So the cost of clicks are a lot lower than what we saw years ago, right? And I think they're going up. Just like I told you, I think they're going up. I think they're going to continue to go up. But they definitely took a big dip. Because there's not that many people competing in the auction, right? I think that it also heavily benefited people who had good organic search visibility. right? Because if you're ranking well and now people can't advertise on top of you, right? Then you're in a really good place. And we saw that, a number of different times. We saw that when Google implemented these restrictions overnight, we saw some guys double their sales, right? Like so many people. I specifically know this one guy in a really rural area. He doesn't even use a POS system. You know what I mean? And when this happened, he's one of the only shops in town. He doubled his business. And we saw it again with COVID, right? With COVID, people stopped showing up. They stopped just going out. They started looking before going somewhere to make sure they're not wasting their time that something was open, right? And that's why you saw some people who never took it seriously. I mean, believe it or not, we still get people calling us that do not have a website, okay? And those people got hit the hardest. But when they closed the malls, you know what I mean? Where that's the one place if you were going to go somewhere, I could just go to the mall and get it fixed, right? All these guys who have been investing in SEO and have been focusing on their search visibility are now the top place to go to when you look for that, right? And so again, you saw guys doubling, tripling their sales in lockdowns. You know what I mean? And then you saw other guys unfortunately wither out and go out of business, right? So I think there's a direct correlation between your traffic that you get from Google and how successful your business is in this industry. I think it's the main source of new customers by far.
I believe that is true. And the way that you put it, it makes me realize that a lot of the people who invested in SEO and websites and making their presence known online, they benefited. And the ones that didn't, now what they're doing is because of desperation, because their outlets in the malls, they're closed and people aren't coming. In desperation, they're trying to catch up on that. So there's a lot more knowledge that they're going to eventually learn. A lot more repair shops, a lot more repair owners are going to learn that, all right, if we need to do business, we need to learn about the marketing side of it. We need to learn about how social media not only works, but also search engines and websites, why it's important to have them. And they're going to work on those sorts of models, which means obviously more business for Repair Lift, which is a very good thing. And I believe that, that's why that you're seeing that trend, like you mentioned earlier, where it did go down when that change was implemented, and now the cost per acquisition is slowly rising up because people are starting to get into the know of this is how they're supposed to do it. The competition was smaller after that change happened, but now it's slowly increasing and getting back to it because a lot more people are in that space. They're jumping in. And obviously, you have customers who would easily be able to walk into a mall and, the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to start searching online. And if they can't receive ads, then they're definitely going to start using Google because Google does everything for you.
Yeah. And even like we could talk about this all day, you know what I mean? Like but one thing to touch on there too, just in general, is what COVID did is it sped up the future, right? Like malls in general are in a really tough position right now because even though there are a certain number of people who do like to go shopping at malls and they enjoy it, right? But I think everybody started buying stuff online when COVID happened, right? So even those malls, the foot traffic that those malls are going to get, even when they're open, is going to be a fraction of what it was. Because why would you go somewhere when you can have it literally the next day delivered to you and you don't have to leave, right? Unless it's urgent. You know what I'm saying? So I think that strategy in general of opening shops in the mall is difficult. And even if you do have that, I think that your online presence is still just as important. Because those malls in general are going to see a decrease in foot traffic. And I think they already have.
No, there's no doubt about it. COVID has changed our world as we know it. It's changed business. And it's pretty certain, it's pretty evident that when things do pick up once again, they're not going to be the same as they were before because everyone is now used to the convenience of having an Amazon package right at their doorstep within a day with express delivery. As opposed to, going outside, getting your stuff, spending money on gas spending money, spending time outside, when you can just sit at home and get everything that you need. So that sort of mindset shift with the customers that you have as a repair shop, that's something that you need to play into. And that's something that you need to cater to.
Absolutely. And it's not just like we're so lucky because we're in a business that's searchable. You know what I mean? Like, it's not hard, dude. Like, open your shop, focus on search presence, and you will do well on the repair side of things, right? Unfortunately, SEO takes a while, but it's by far the best bang for your buck that you could ever get, right? Especially with rising, acquisition costs, as we talked about. Obviously doing stuff on the back end with email and marketing to existing customers and existing leads is free, is really important. But SEO is going to be how you can keep those cost per acquisitions down. And a good analogy I like to use is, let's hypothetically, you spend $1,000 on paid ads, right, on Google, which gets you, let's say it gets you 100 leads, say it gets you a $10 cost per lead, right? If you can manage to get 100 leads organically through Google search as well, right? Now you have 200 leads total from Google search, but you only spent $1,000. It brings your blended cost per lead from $10 a lead down to $5 a lead. You see what I'm saying? And that's why the biggest companies in the world right now are focusing a lot of money on SEO, right? Because they know that. Why would they keep paying per click when they can reduce, the number of people the amount that they need to rely on the paid ads, and they can get the same thing for free.
And of course, being a marketing professional, you would know about this, is that the organic material that you put up there, the organic searches, most of them are evergreen, and they can just keep on building over time, which is a very good thing, because paid ads are very limited. They're limited to the budget that you can spend, and they're limited by time. But if you put in stuff organically, you might be putting something in today, and it could be that 3 years down the line, that's the thing that's bringing you the most conversions, even with paid ads, because it's been making the rounds. It's been circulating around. People have been sharing it on Reddit. People have been sharing it on some other social platform. And the more links that you have, the better chances it is of showing up in organic searches, which is a great thing. So organic is obviously very important, and a lot of people need to be able to work with it. They need to know how it works. They need to know how SEO works for that to take place. And that's what's important. So moving forward with our discussion. So what sort of advice do you generally give out to people that you work with on how to improve their repair shop marketing efforts? We've already talked a bit about SEO. What other areas do you assist them in and advise them in where they can work?
Good question. So again, the first thing we always do is tell them to focus on Google. Okay. Both SEO and paid ads. I think that using social media for direct conversions to repairs is not necessarily a great strategy, but I think that over time it does multiply on itself, and I think it is really effective. And what I mean by that is you want to utilize social media the same way you would utilize for repair service, that is. The same way that you would have utilized the radio and TV before, which is constant bombardment of ads, constantly letting people know you're there, right? Because if they needed you, they would be searching for you. They wouldn't be passively scrolling on their device, right? So it is important, to let them know they're there, but not to expect a direct conversion in the repair front. Now, where we can and where we do see a lot of direct conversions is where we can work on impulse a little bit, right? So buybacks. Huge buybacks for social media. We get a lot of people in our store every single day, and we ask everybody where we come from. And we hear Facebook and Instagram a lot more when it comes to buybacks, right? Because we're letting people know, hey, you can get money for your old devices, right? And it's actually really effective because a lot of those people, they're not even looking to sell it yet. They have and that's how you get stuff for really, really good rates. You know what I mean? And also with selling devices as well, and sales, and where you have promotions and stuff like that. That's where it's a really good, it's really effective to use social media for, because that can drive direct conversions, right? Whereas the repair service, if you're advertising it, you need to advertise it on Google because that's where they're looking when they need you. But if you're going to advertise it on Facebook, it's got to be more of a brand awareness type thing. Still trying to drive leads, you know what I mean? But turning those leads into real customers, it's more top of funnel stuff on the repair side. So it should be, if you're a smaller budget, I'll make it simple. If you have a smaller budget, I would use Google for my repair efforts, and I would use social media for my buying and selling efforts. So that's what I would be doing.
All right. So could you keep mentioning about top of funnel, and I don't know if a lot of our viewers are aware of it. Could you please explain the concept of top of funnel and the whole funnel system?
Yeah, sure. So when you're looking at any type of business, you have a funnel, right? And you have different levels of awareness and engagement with your brand. The top of the funnel is kind of where, you're educating people about yourself. You're letting them know that you're there, but there's not necessarily buying intent. The bottom of the funnel would be someone who knows that they have a problem. Maybe they have a broken device and they're actively looking for a solution, right? Or someone who has been researching devices. They know exactly which device they want to buy and they're buying, right? Or, and don't even get me started on e-commerce. That's where we're headed next. But, I know you realize that too. But yeah, there's a difference between, someone who you're letting know, hey, you can get a pre-owned device and save a bunch of money up here, right? Where you can still play off impulses, right, at the top of the funnel, but that you're still in the educational part of things, right? Whereas the bottom of the funnel is more where they've already made that decision that they're ready to go, and now they're just trying to find out where they're
Right. So we've talked about the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel. There is also the concept of the middle of the funnel. Could you please explain that a little bit as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on exactly what you're doing. I think the middle of the funnel is kind of warming those leads up, so they kind of already know that they're they're in the market, but you're trying to warm them up onto the point of doing it now, urgency, that kind of stuff. But for this particular business, I don't think that we look at the middle of the funnel as much because I don't think that the sales cycle I don't think it's a long sales cycle. Whereas with RepairLift's marketing and with RepairDesk marketing, I'm sure that we look at the middle of the funnel a lot more closely than we would for a B2C.
That is actually true. Middle of the funnel is pretty important for businesses that advertise to other businesses. But I believe that in a B2C environment, middle of the funnel can be sort of like looked away at because you have people who you need to educate that this is something that you require, and then you have people who have that education and they're still on the fence, and when you can, the ones that seem still on the fence, they fall into the middle of the funnel. But the ones who've already made their decision, who get that advertising so much, they're like, all right, you know what, I'll give it a try. Those are the ones who actually get into the bottom of the funnel, and then they need to find a way to be able to engage with your business.
And the middle of the funnel, it's interesting, like not necessarily for the repair shops, but just in general. And so anybody watching this is going to notice this. Like the middle of the funnel and even the top of the funnel doesn't always. It works for your industry, but it doesn't always work in your favor. You know what I mean? Like RepairDesk may be advertising, hey, you need a repair shop management software, right? You need all these different features and all these different benefits. And then the guy can make the decision, I need one of these softwares, and then start looking at all these softwares, and then maybe go click an ad for another POS system, and then end up going with those guys. You know what I mean? So it's tricky, but yeah.
It works as a double-edged sword. So you have to be sort of really careful when designing your campaigns like that, so that when your customers do come, they come to you as opposed to start doing their thing and, all right, you know what? This other service seems better to me. Why don't I go for that? That's not really going to be in your favor. It's, so that's what it is.
But if you do have good opt-in techniques and just like we talked about with SMS and email marketing, you're going to be able to sway those people your way a lot more because you can likely get them to the bottom of the funnel through your touch points rather than through going to a Google search and trying to find maybe alternative options.
All right. Speaking of opt-ins, how would that translate into a repair shop trying to advertise to its customers? Because for B2B, we can find out ways, but for B2C, how would that work?
I think there's a number of different ways to do it. Our way, is probably very similar to your way. We look for, we give people instant price quotes, right? I think you guys have a widget that does the same thing. So, trading people the price for their information is a good strategy to get opt-ins. And those are also usually warmer leads, right? Then, for instance, using, here's a $10 coupon, join our newsletter, right? Or another way is giveaways, right? We always run giveaways and it always requires an opt-in, right? You want to enter the giveaway, you got to opt in. I mean, like anything, even with buyback leads, we run buyback lead ads, and we want people to opt in to figure out what their device is, right? Now, you definitely, when you are gating these things, whatever the value that you're trading, you are going to lose people who don't want to give up their information, right? But ultimately, it's a numbers game. And I would rather, lose a few people who don't want to opt in and get a bunch of people that can continue to market to for free than to give everybody the information and make everybody happy. You know what I mean?
I understand that. And besides, I feel that people who sort of like opt out of giving you their information aren't really the ones that would want to engage with your business as much. The ones that do wouldn't have a problem with staying in touch, getting to know you, getting to hear more about you, because they will want to, let's say, maybe get some device for a holiday or buy something for a loved one down the line. And they have that in mind. They have that foresight. The ones that sort of like withhold that information, they're like, all right, you know what? They're probably not even going to go into the sort of services that you're offering as much. So their lifetime acquisition, the lifetime return of their that customer is probably not going to be as much as the one who wants to opt in voluntarily.
Right. Yeah, I think it's situational, but I think those are really good points. I think that's probably true.
Right. So after talking about repair shops in general, let's talk a bit about RepairLift. So how has the journey to build RepairLift been for you personally? And what sort of lessons did you learn from switching from parts to switching to marketing?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I've learned a lot of lessons. Okay, we've been 3 years now. We've been operational as RepairLift. I had been freelancing before that as well, and we're very close to 40 employees now. I think we're like 38 or 39. So we've come a really long way, and I've learned a lot of lessons. The first one is systems. Okay, you need systems. I know a lot of people in the industry are talking about systems now. I'm talking about systems for a long time. Systems are so important. My business partner, Matt, I remember one time he said that his other business, Computer Repair Doctor, he said, when I stopped working in the business and started working on the business is when I started making real money, right? And that has stuck with me for a really long time because I was always working on my part of the business, sales side, right? And his part of our business is the operations team, where I stopped looking at closing deals day to day and I started looking at duplicating myself, automating a lot of our prospecting and all that kind of stuff. It really allowed us to multiply. So systems, training manuals. Okay, like when you come work for RepairLift on the sales team, there's a lot of documentation. There's a full sales cycle. There's qualification. There's everything. And it's all documented. And these guys are expected to know all of this stuff before they ever talk to the client, right? And that really speeds up the training process and allows me to duplicate myself faster. You know what I mean? So systems are super, super important. Another thing is internal automation, right? Finding ways to get more out of your team, right? So Google Ads, we'll talk about Google Ads, right? It's super hard to keep the ads live these days, right? You can get ads live, you can run a smart campaign to keep them live, but to actually to be able to have control over the campaigns, right? To be able to optimize and have good cost per lead, is really hard these days because Google's always pulling ads down, so you're always pulling ads up, right? So we invested a lot of money, dude, like a lot of money in a duplication tool, right? It saved me 20 hours a week for my Google Ads team. Think about that, 20 hours a week, right? That now I'm able to do so much more out of that team instead of having to hire new people, right? So automating things can really help you out internally. Taking risks is another one. Okay, I tell the story a lot. When we were doing $6,000 in sale, I was spending $3,000 on ads, right? It was the best decision I've ever made. Yeah, we struggled for a few months. Yeah, I had to move home and live with my mom, live in parents' basement, you know what I mean? Which I was fortunate enough that they let me do that, right? But it allowed us to grow. Like three years, seeing that the growth that we've achieved is not necessarily that common, and I think a lot of it has to do with taking risk, And then the last lesson I learned is to just dig your heels in and don't give up. Seriously, like we've been through. Okay, when Google Ads implemented those restrictions, we were a Google Ads only firm. That was our whole business. I lost half the company overnight, right? It was good because it forced us to adapt and improve and make things better, right? But it was really, really stressful, and it would have been really easy to give up, right? And then once we got everything going, I finally have all these teams, bam, COVID hits. You know what I mean? Same thing. Everyone's freaking out. First thing they're doing is calling their marketing agency. They're going into contraction mode, right? Trying to hold all their money. So you just got to dig in, and you got to bully your way into the marketplace and hold your market share. You know what I mean? And just not let anybody or anything push you out. And I think that's probably the most important lesson, is that you can, whether you think you can do it or you think you can't do it, you're right.
Digging your heels in is important. And I believe COVID has given everyone a very good opportunity to be able to do that, to be able to learn that sort of lesson. And obviously, for you, it's been a very life-changing experience. And it's a major change for RepairLift as well, which is why that's where they are today, doing great business. So let's talk about what you have set on the horizon. The sort of plans that RepairLift has for the future, the sort of milestones that you have outlined, and how you plan to grow within the coming years.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I can't disclose too much info.
That's fine.
I can say we have some really big things coming. I think what's going to keep us successful is just the methodology behind how we run the company. Our sales director, Oliver, I don't know if you know him or not, he's always in the groups. A good way he likes to phrase it is, look at what we're doing today and make that obsolete. Right? How can we make our company look like shit? By making something so much better, right? So what RepairLift is going to do to keep growing is to continue to improve our customer experience, continue to improve our service offerings, and continue to stay ahead of the curve with strategy, right? Because it's one thing to have a few people who can do Google ads or have a few people who can do Facebook ads or whatever it is. It's another thing to have high-level strategy and then be able to delegate that and be able to do it at scale for hundreds of stores, right? So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to make things better. And yeah, that's about all that I can say, but I'm really excited for the coming months and years.
Well, absolutely. We're excited for you as well. And it sounds like RepairLift has the right idea, and it's definitely going to pay off in the future. We're really excited. We're really happy to hear that. So, could you please let us know, if any of our listeners, where they can find you, where they can find your business, and if they want to be able to get in touch with you with regards to work or any mentorship or any ideas that they have, how can they do that?
Yeah. So you can find us on Instagram at RepairLift Marketing. You can find us on Facebook at RepairLift. You go to our website, repairlift.com. You can reach out to me on Facebook. My Facebook name is Cory Joseph. You can talk to our sales director, Oliver, which is Oliver Wild. That's WYLDE. Reach out to him and he'll get you set up. But yeah, anything that we can do to help you grow or even just to point you in the right direction, we're happy to do so.
Happy to hear that. Well, I'm pretty sure that our customers, all the listeners that you have, that we have, and all the customers that you have can attest to that. So, anyways, I think this is about the end of it. Thank you so much for your time, Cory. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I really wish the best of luck for RepairLift in the future, through COVID, and making it strong out.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to doing more and more business with RepairDesk as well, and we wish you guys all the best. So, thanks again for having me on here. I'm really honored you to bring me on.
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Cory.
Okay, man. Well, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time as well. Thank you so much once again, Cory.
Okay.
All right. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too.